There may be some risk you're going faster than the minimum, but you're not violating any case law that would prohibit a pastor from doing what number 2, what Pastor Doe has done. Number 3, the church adopts a resolution at a business meeting, which the pastor reads Sunday morning. Our church body endorses Smith. His position on X issue is consistent with what we believe is biblical, and we're giving $1,000 to his campaign. You didn't see that sign, but you're going over that 100-mile-an-hour limit, and so I suggest you mark that one risky. Why are you calling it safe and risky? Why don't you say it's legal or illegal? Because I can't, you can't, no lawyer can, ACLU lawyer can't tell you that's illegal, because the Internal Revenue Service and the U.S. Supreme Court and any other lower court has never said that's illegal. But they have threatened some organizations and ministries with loss of their tax exemption. And they usually negotiate some sort of settlement. These cases rarely wind up getting reported. But Jesse Jackson travels around to churches raising funds for the candidates of his choice or for some political action committee. And they're notorious. A number of the religious leaders are notorious for going to the churches to raise money. And people file complaints, and the IRS will not lift a finger because they know. They want to take the chance. For liberals or conservatives, they don't want to take the chance that the law above the law will trump 501c3, and the Supreme Court will finally have to strike down this code section because it violates religious liberty. This Supreme Court, the one today, I think would probably protect Baptist convictions about religious liberty and freedom, and would cause that to trump 501c3. I don't know about the courts of the future. So we're giving you advice about the court and the state of the law today, and things could change. IRS could change its policies, get much more aggressive, and they've become more aggressive this year than in years past, focusing in on nonprofit religious organizations. So this could be a different campaign season, but I'm here to tell you that as a matter of law, it's not clearly illegal. I can tell you it's safe or risky, and so my advice is point number 3 is legally risky. If God tells you to do it, you do it, but you've known going into it, you're taking chances you'll violate Caesar's mandate, and you're going to be in the hands of the court, ultimately in the hands of the Lord. You decide what God wants you to do. Number 4, the church sponsors a nonpartisan voter registration drive and spends church funds to promote it, to pay registration workers to mail out registration forms. I think you're safe to do that. I think that's risky. Okay, check mark safe. Number 4 is safe. I put down 53 to 55 miles an hour. I think you're safe to do that. Number 5, Pastor Doe invites Smith, the incumbent congressman, and all other candidates to speak in the pulpit on Citizenship Sunday, a month before the election. How many say you're safe to have a candidate for him? Absolutely. Anybody think that's risky? I don't think so. I think it's safe to do that, and I put down 53 to 55 miles an hour again. I think it's, you could be at the top end of the range if it's a 55-mile-an-hour speed zone, but we don't really know if it's 50 or 70 in this particular vicinity. But what makes it safe is what? What's the one feature about this point 5 that makes this probably safe? Invited everybody. Now, it just happens that none of the Whig party came. It's not his fault. He invited everybody, so inviting everybody shows it's nonpartisan. Look at number 6. Pastor Doe invites only Smith and has him read the Bible and lead the morning prayer. I think that's safe. I think that's risky. I part down it's probably risky. Number 6, I put 60 to 65 miles an hour. You're not going 100. But you're not going 40 or 50 either. And if it's a 55-mile-an-hour zone, you may have gone over. We're not sure what the law would be. These cases haven't been resolved by the courts. But what makes it risky is there have been investigations and complaints filed where people have just one candidate stand up and speak. So email your friend Steve Gaines, who had Rick Santorum on the front pew 2 or 3 weeks ago and introduced him. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not sure he had invited him, but he showed up and they put him on the front pew. And the pastor, Steve Gaines, at Bellevue Baptist Church says, we're glad to have Rick Santorum here with his wife. He's a senator from the state of Pennsylvania. Let's thank God for him in prayer. Well, up to that point, nobody was going to complain. But now the blogosphere is lit up with a few ACLU activists that said, he can't go praying for Rick Santorum. I think Steve Gaines probably says, bring it on. You know, yeah, I'm going. If that's 85 in your view, so be it. I'll take my chances. I'll pray for Barack Obama if he comes. My prayer might be different for Rick Santorum from Barack Obama. I got freedom of conscience on that. Their needs may be different, but I have the right to pray for both of them from the pulpit. So it may be a little bit more risky on number 6. Didn't say it's illegal. I said it's 60 to 65 miles an hour, a little more risky. Number 7, Pastor Doe takes an offering Wednesday night to raise money to give to the election campaign of Smith. How many think that's safe? Yeah, you're learning. Risky. Raise your hands. That one's probably risky. If I can get my quiz. Test miles per hour, safe or risky. 100 miles an hour, number 7. So I heard somebody say, but Jesse does it. Jesse drives 100 and he never gets caught. Isn't that the heck of it, with the speeding laws? Every time I'm pulled over, there's guys going faster than I was that didn't get caught. And I want to say, I'm going to take this to the Supreme Court. The right of selective enforcement by these law enforcement officers is just unfair. Well, the IRS doesn't go after Jesse, and they haven't gone after Steve. Every now and then they'll poke, and I've seen them write threatening letters when the ACLU really huffs and puffs. IRS will write threatening letters more often to conservative preachers when there's a liberal in the administration. And that's just a fact of life. That's a risk of driving down tax exemption traffic way, is Smokey the Bear may have it out for you in your red Mustang. And that's, you just have to learn to live with the law with your temperament. How do you practice preventive law? You'll be the judge on that. Number 8, church funds are used to prepare, print, and mail voter scorecards listing leading candidates and their voting records on various restrictions on abortion. No editorial comment is made. How many say that's safe? How many say risky there? I've check marked safe. It's safe to do that. I put down 55 to 60 miles an hour because the voter scorecard is neutral. No endorsements. No editorial comment. Now, point number 9, the voter scorecard bears the statement, First Baptist is pro-life. Candidate Doe always votes pro-life. Candidate Rowe is always pro-choice. And First Baptist Church is pro-life. And now we spend church dollars, church funds, church vote to send it out. Now, on number 9, how many say safe? Raise your hands. How many say risky here? I've checked risky. 60 miles an hour. That's not very risky, is it? 60 miles an hour. But the limit may be 55 if IRS pulls you over. And they may say, you can't put down your editorial opinion on a voter scorecard. And you say, well, I'll fight that to the U.S. Supreme Court. Finance Committee come together. Let's get together a budget to pay Mike Whitehead $1 million retainer and take this sucker to the U.S. Supreme Court. $1 million for legal fees? Can't we find something more work? Let's just go gamble the money away and pay it on lawyers. Well, we don't want to pay lawyers. I've noticed that churches are not really anxious to get into deep weeds of legal trouble if there's some way they can have their conscience and accomplish their mission and stay out of court. Preventive law is the goal here. We're not trying to pick a fight, change the law. There are other organizations that can do that. We're going to talk about some efforts to do that in a moment. But if your church is trying to practice preventive law, I suggest the IRS regulations in some cases suggest that your voter scorecard should not have your editorial comments trying to influence what is supposed to be a neutral candidate scorecard. Here's a report on their voting records. But when you add your opinion, you're trying to influence the outcome of the election. Well, of course we are. But the Internal Revenue Code says, thou shalt not participate or intervene attempt to influence the outcome of an election. Don't try to influence the way people vote during a political candidate campaign. And until it violates your religious conscience, if you choose to practice preventive law, you'll try to respect those principles. If you can live by some of those rules, travel that lower speed limit, you'd say number 9 is a little bit risky, but not illegal, but more risky than not having the editorial comment. Number 10. Get past 9 here on my slide. A Sunday school teacher during class criticizes the mayor for supporting a homosexual rights ordinance. The mayor's opponent is opposed to gay rights. How many say it's safe? How many say risky here? I've check marked safe because it is a Sunday school teacher expressing his personal opinion. A church may have a policy that tells Sunday school teachers stay away from politics and religion in your Sunday school classes. Those are two things that upset people. And if you want to do church that way, you got to stay away from politics and religion, or the mixture and the overlap of the two, then do that. But you're not risking your tax exemption because the Sunday school teacher said, did you hear what the mayor did this week? I'm trying to promote this gay rights ordinance, and John Doe's run against him, and I appreciate John's position that the Bible says one man, one woman in marriage. I know who I'm voting for. That doesn't risk the church's tax exemption because it happens on tax-deductible, tax-exempt bricks and mortar. You still have religious freedom as individuals. It's not church action. Number 11. Catch up here. The church gives its private mailing list to the Whig Party, which mails campaign materials about its candidates to all church members. How many say that's safe? How many say it's risky? Most agree that it's risky. I put down, what did I say is the speed limit here? 100 miles an hour. Pretty risky to give away your mailing list. I say that because Jerry Falwell, the Old Time Gospel Hour, made their mailing list back at the beginning of the moral majority. They made their mailing list available to the Republican Party, free of charge. It was a lengthy, computerized mailing list of people all over the country, likely to vote conservatively, and the Republicans really treasured that list. It was worth money, but Falwell donated the list to them and wouldn't have made it available to the Democrats. So IRS threatened this tax exemption, sent a warning letter, and they settled it for a $50,000 payment. He said, I'd rather keep doing that than to stop doing it and agree that it breaks the law. I don't agree that it breaks the law, but he settled with a pretty hefty, they didn't call it a fine, but neither did he agree that it was unlawful. But because of that precedent, we can tell you it's at least risky, and we think it's probably in the 100-mile-an-hour range to be giving away private mailing lists or any other property that has value, giving it to one political party that has use of that for advancing, influencing the outcome of an election. And then number 12, the church buys a full-page ad in USA Today that says, a vote for Bobby Williams is a sin against God. How many think that's safe? Anybody think that's risky? What speed would you call that? Let's see here, 200 miles an hour. That's exactly right. The Pierce Creek Church in New York State took out such an ad during the election of Bill Clinton, and the IRS sued them, took them to court, revoked their tax exemption because they bought a full-page ad. This was not the pastor standing up in his pulpit saying, I believe, and I've talked to our deacons, and we believe that a vote for Bill Clinton is a sin against God. If he stood up and said that, the IRS would never have touched him, because they know better than to take on the pastor in the pulpit and try to abridge his religious conscience. The law is too clear and it's too settled, and their precedent of not touching the pastor in the pulpit is too well established. But when you buy a full-page ad in USA Today, you're not just trying to pastor your people. You're not just trying to proclaim biblical truth, although this full-page ad was full of Old Testament and New Testament citations. They said it was a Bible lesson for the nation. No, you were trying to influence the outcome of that election 2 weeks before the election, and they forfeited their tax exemption.